League of Legends is a game with an insane amount of variables. You need to learn so much to succeed, such as macro, team fighting, objective control, vision control, etc. It takes so much to be good at this game. That being said, your games would be a lot easier if you won lane every single time, right? Everything we just talked about is easy mode if you're always the one coming out ahead during the laning phase. And the best way to do that is by out-trading your opponents and crushing them. Therefore, we figured we'd make a comprehensive guide for everything you need to know on how to stop your opponents during lane as an ADC. To begin with, we'll quickly cover some of the basics of trading effectively in bot lane and move on to the more advanced concepts you need to know later on in the video. Let's begin with the most basic concept you can immediately begin to apply, which is simply to trade whenever you have a minion advantage. Minion damage is quite powerful during the early stages of the game, so if you have more minions than your opponent, you'll naturally come out on top in most exchanges if the fight happens close to the wave. Keep in mind that this tip's usefulness depends on where both sides are standing relative to the waves. For example, in this clip, Kog'Maw walks way past his own wave and fights the enemy duo in the middle of their own wave. Even though the waves were about equal in strength, Kog'Maw obviously loses that trade horribly since he was standing right in the middle of the enemy wave. The last tip we'll share in regards to trading around minions is to be vigilant for opportunities such as this one. When you see that the enemy wave only has a bit of health left and is about to die out completely, then you'll want to immediately push forward to try and get a trade in. The idea is that you want to kill the minions as you move forward. That way, it becomes much harder for your opponents to fight back. Even with just this small 2-minion advantage, the enemy duo is completely forced to back off and takes a losing trade. Not only could they not fight back because of minion damage, which is very important at this stage of the game, but also because even with just 1 or 2 minions, you completely deny all skill shots from your opponents by using minions to block for you. Keep in mind that this tactic works best on ADCs with AoE abilities to instantly kill the minions as they move forward. You could see at the start of the trade that Rakan had a similar idea. He wanted to begin a trade by both killing the minions and initiating on Thresh. But as an ADC, you can do the same thing on multiple champions. Obviously, the Kai'Sa managed it here with her Q, but plenty of other ADCs with AoE abilities can do that, such as Varus, Ashe, or Caitlyn. Okay, moving on, let's talk about brush control. This is probably something you've experienced in your own games, where the enemy duo has control of the brushes and they're constantly harassing you. Meanwhile, it's very hard to fight back since they're just dipping in and out of the fog of war constantly. It's super annoying and there's not a lot of counterplay for it since you don't have unlimited wards. Our best advice for you here is just to try and stand as far away from the brushes as possible when you don't have control over them. As a duo, your support has way more influence in whether you're able to control those brushes or not. You should try your best to gain control of them yourself, but ultimately that won't be up to you. That being said, if you do have brush control, there's a massive tip that's going to allow you to utilize them to the max if you don't already know it. Looking at this previous clip once more, notice that when Neeko went to auto inside the brush, she then came out and went back into the brush. Through this process, the enemy retained vision of her and Thresh was able to retaliate by autoing her inside of the brush. Basically, she's not utilizing brushes effectively. When you perform an action from inside the brush, even if you leave it, you will still be giving vision of yourself to your opponent when you go back inside. Therefore, what you want to do when you have brush control is come out to auto or cast a spell and then go back in. That way, you can properly utilize the Fog of War to prevent as much damage coming back your way as possible and making your opponent's life completely miserable. Next up is a very simple but highly effective tip for out-trading ADC matchups. This will be based on one of the more standard forms of trading that is applicable for all lanes, which is to punish your opponent's spell cooldowns. Basically, when your opponent's abilities are on cooldown is a great timing to go in for your own trade since they'll deal minimal damage back to you. That of course is a great tip for bot lane as well, but it isn't as useful as it is in mid lane since most of an ADC's damage comes from auto attacks. And that's basically your tip. During the early stages of the lane, when both sides don't have much attack speed, auto attacks technically have decently high cooldowns. What you want to do is watch carefully for when your opponent is required to last hit your own minions. When they last hit the minion with their auto, you auto them while they can't hit you back. It's the exact same concept as playing around ability cooldowns, but with a much smaller timing window to punish since auto cooldowns are rather low even early on. The next thing you'll want to immediately incorporate into your gameplay is something known as auto spacing. It's really easy to understand this one. All it means is that if you have a range advantage, you want to stand inside your own auto attack range and just outside of your opponent's range. That way, you can obviously auto attack them while they can't get any damage back on you. This is a pretty brutal way to out-trade an enemy ADC, and generally means that the marksman with higher range should win trades more often with proper spacing during auto duels. As this is such an important concept to master for ADCs, we figured we'd make things easy for you. Here's a chart of all the marksmen and their auto attack ranges from highest to lowest. If you're unfamiliar with all their ranges, then you can just reference this chart during the loading screen to instantly know whether you should be abusing auto spacing to win trades during that game. Or if your range is lower, then you'll also immediately know whether you should look to avoid trades more often than usual that game. Although auto spacing is definitely an incredibly powerful tool, it's not the end-all be-all of bot lane. If it was, Caitlyn would be meta every season for eternity, and no one wants that. There's plenty of counterplay against being outranged through your own abilities or synergy with your support. Which brings us to our most important concept we need to learn in bot. Your most powerful tool in lane is going to be your support, and the best tip we can give you to playing around them is going to be based on parallel trading. Parallel trading is literally just standing parallel to your support like so. The idea is that if you go in for a trade, then by standing side by side, you'll both be in range to hit the same target. If your opponents happen to not be standing parallel to each other as well, then you're effectively getting a 2v1 trade on your opponent even though it's a 2v2 lane. We all know what you're about to say though. But skill capped, my support is always the one who is standing 50 parsecs behind me. That will definitely happen, but it doesn't mean you can't still apply this skill. There will definitely be moments when your support is parallel to you, but more importantly, the concern that your low elo supports won't stand beside you is exactly why you should be rejoicing. Parallel trading is by far one of, if not the most important concept to learn for trading in bot lane, which means if you master it, then you will be at an inherent advantage every game. The enemy team has two different players. Both of them have the potential to misposition in lane in regards to their partner. Meanwhile, if you really master parallel positioning, it's only your own support who can mess up. And even if they mess up their positioning, you can always make up for it through repositioning next to them as well. Basically, the odds are always in your favor in low elo in regards to parallel positioning. Yes, your support will sometimes be way too aggressive on their own or the most passive player in the world, but you'll just have to deal with that. Alright, let's take a look at some actual examples of how this looks like in a real game. One of the most important things to remember is that standing next to your support doesn't mean you're positioning appropriately. You want to be parallel to them relative to where the enemy team is standing. We can see that perfectly clear in this example. Lulu wants to play aggressively with her range advantage in this lane and walks up, which is a big blunder on her part. Notice the Tristana and Lulu's positioning. Yes, they're parallel to each other, but that doesn't mean Tristana is in range to auto-attack anyone at the moment. Kai'Sa and Rakan were both instantly aware of this mistake and immediately forced a 2v1 trade onto the Lulu, while Tristana did nothing in return. This is definitely not Tristana's fault, but like we said, you can always try to fix your support's bad positioning with this concept. Tristana could have tried to stand around here when she saw her Lulu walk up like that. That way, she'd actually be in range to help when Lulu got attacked. Not only should you be looking to punish whenever either the enemy ADC or support mispositions, but you can even actively try to bait it out through your own positioning as well. Let's show you another challenger level example of what we mean. We initially see Varus and Karma playing around their brushes, making as much use of the Fog of War advantage as they can, but Varus is out for blood. Notice how he begins to walk here. He's pretending as if he's being zoned at the moment. Lulu is a decent player. In her mind, she thinks she's winning, and if she manages to push Varus away, he's going to have to go all the way around the alcove, which is going to lose him pressure on the wave and potentially some CS. But understanding parallel positioning, we obviously know this is just a bait from Varus to lead her away from Jinx. That way, he and Karma can get a favorable auto trade on her. Notice how afterwards Varus continues to bait back and forth to get Lulu to overcommit to her poor positioning. She continues to fall for the bait and gets instantly punished once Karma finally gets a Q off on her. Just like that, she's forced to blow Flash through perfect usage of parallel positioning from the Varus. These two previous examples we just watched are from Deft, one of the best ADCs in the world against top Korean challenger players. As you can see, he's not doing some crazy secret technique to outplay his opponents. He's just applying this very basic fundamental by refining it as much as he possibly can. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this trading video. If you start applying all these concepts, then you're going to instantly start out-trading most players you go up against, regardless of what circumstances you may find yourself in. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next guide. See ya!